I came home early to my wife crying. My son forced her to sign fake papers, so I called cops. The house was too quiet for a Saturday afternoon. I'd come home early, the sun still bright on the porch, expecting to hear the sound of Marion humming or the TV running. Instead, I heard muffled sobs. In the kitchen, she sat trembling at the table, a stack of papers spread before her, and Brian, my son, stood over her, his voice sharp, his hand gripping a pen. "Sign it, Mom. It's just a transfer form," he said, forcing the pen toward her. Her finger shook. "Brian, your father hasn't even—" He slammed his palm on the table. "Do you want me to lose everything? Just sign it. It's for your own good." That's when I saw it, the fake county seal on the deed. My name already forged. I stepped back into the hallway, heart pounding, and whispered into my phone, 911? I need officers, right now. I guess 99% of you will hear this, sigh and scroll past, not clicking like or subscribe. Even if it only takes a second, what time is it for you and where are you listening? I used to think silence was just the absence of noise. Turns out, real silence, the kind that sits in your bones, has a texture to it. Mine smelled faintly of lemon oil, brewed coffee, and the salt of the ocean pushing through the open kitchen window. After 40 years of fighting fires, of sirens and shouted orders, I have finally earned this quiet. A house built brick by brick, year by year. Paid off, no debt, no alarms, just peace. My mornings run like clockwork. 6:15, kettle hisses. The mug, Emily's favorite, a chipped one with a faded "World's Best Dad" print, gets its place on the counter. Marion hums in the garden, trimming roses the way she once trimmed our daughter's hair, slow, careful, exact. The marble floor under my bare feet shines like still water. I can smell the lemon oil from yesterday's polish. Everything in its place. That's how I like it. That's how she liked it too. In the study, light falls across my oak filing cabinet, the one I bought when we first moved here. Heavy, square, unyielding. Inside, everything that matters. The deed to the house, our living trust, insurance, Emily's school awards, a few letters she wrote from college before the accident. The top drawer is labeled Deeds and Title. The label's edges are worn smooth from the number of times I've touched it, maybe to reassure myself that order can still exist in a world that lost her. Sometimes, I catch Marion watching me when I rest my hand on that cabinet. She doesn't say anything, she just knows. There's a quiet agreement between us. As long as that cabinet stands, our life stands too. The phone blinks with a new voicemail. "Hey, Pops." Brian's voice says bright, confident, the tone he uses when he's selling something. "Got a cool idea for you guys. Call me when you get a minute, yeah?" My stomach tightens before I even hit replay. He sounds good. Too good. That kind of cheerfulness usually comes with a request on the tail end. Marion peeks in from the hallway, her gardening gloves still on. "He sounds better lately," she says softly. "Yeah," I answer, keeping my voice even. "Maybe." I rest my hand on the filing cabinet again just to feel its solidity. It's ridiculous maybe, but that cabinet feels more dependable than my own son sometimes. Brian was always charming, quick smile, easy words, but never quite steady. Jobs came and went. Opportunities fell through. The last time we bailed him out, he promised it was the last. I wanted to believe him. Every parent does. Outside, the mower hums low as I guide it across the lawn. The ocean breeze drifts in from the west, carrying the scent of salt and Mrs. Alvarez's orange blossoms next door. She waves from her porch holding a basket of cut fruit. "Beautiful day, Mr. Hale," she calls. "It is," I reply, and it is on the surface. The grass is trimmed, the sun is steady, the house gleams. But under that calm, there's something restless. Like a storm you can't see yet but know is forming somewhere offshore. Back inside, I wipe down the marble again, not because it needs it, but because keeping order keeps me sane. Marion is kneeling by the roses out front, her hat tilted just so, her body still strong but moving slower these days. Watching her, I think about how everything I care about fits inside these walls, and how easily one careless act, one signature, could undo it all. I return to the study, slide the cabinet drawer shut, and turn the key. The lock clicks, solid and final. The brass key feels heavier than usual in my palm. Maybe I'm imagining it, or maybe it's warning me. I slip it into my pocket and glance at Emily's photo, her smile frozen at 22, the light behind her eyes bright and sure. Protect what's left, Richard, I whisper. Protect it. The phone rings again. Marion calls from the garden. It's Brian. I close my eyes for a moment, steadying my breath. I didn't know a simple phone call would pry at that lock more than any crowbar could. The next morning started like most others. Coffee, sunlight sliding through clean glass, the low hum of the refrigerator filling the silence between Marion and me. I was reading the paper when my phone lit up, Brian. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. There's always a small calculation that happens before I pick up. How much patience do I have today? Hey, Pops. His voice burst through like he was calling from a commercial set. How's my favorite firefighter? I leaned back in my chair. Retired, I said. And just fine, Brian. What's up? He chuckled, that nervous salesman laugh I'd heard since he was 16. Listen, I've been thinking, you guys have that amazing backyard perfect deck killer view. Jess was saying we could come by this weekend, help you clean up a bit, maybe stain the railings. You've been meaning to do that, right? I could hear Jessica's voice faintly in the background, giggling about good lighting. That was my first clue. Whenever Brian mentioned help, it usually came packaged with a favor, and when Jessica chimed in, it meant content her online brand. Before I could respond, he added softly, Dad, Emily would want us all together this weekend. You know she hated seeing you lonely. Emily's name hit like a quiet punch. My hand froze around the coffee mug. He used it so casually, as if my daughter's memory was some family coupon code redeemable for access. Good until I ran out of guilt. I didn't trust my voice, so I stood and walked to my study, closing the door behind me. The leather chair sighed as I opened the voice memo app on my phone and hit record. It's legal in this state one-party consent. I wasn't planning a trap. I just knew better than to trust my memory when emotions were involved. Brian, I said evenly, that deck doesn't need a crowd. You said a few friends? Yeah, just 2 or 3. Jess might bring her camera. She's doing this new family series thing. You'll love it. It's all positive energy. Emily hated how serious everyone got about rules. You gotta relax, Pops. Positive energy. My daughter's name, a camera. Every phrase designed to disarm. I exhaled slowly. 2 hours, I said. No drinking and no cameras in the house. You can stay outside, help with the deck, then you leave. There was a pause, a calculated one. I could almost hear him grinning through it. You're the best, Pops. Seriously, you'll see. It'll feel good to have laughter back in that place. Laughter. I'd had laughter here once, before the house became a museum of absence. We hung up. The quiet afterward felt heavier than before. I replayed his tone in my head, upbeat, practiced, rehearsed. There was a new polish to it, the kind that comes from someone who's learned to mix sentiment with self-interest. Marion poked her head into the study, still in her garden hat. He sounds happy, she said hopefully. Yeah, I murmured, sliding my phone into the drawer beside the flash drives. He does. I connected the phone to my computer, transferred the recording, and created a new folder. June visit. Naming things helps me feel prepared. Files don't lie, and memories fade when you want them to. Outside, the late morning light glinted off the ocean like a line of tiny mirrors. It should have been beautiful. Instead, I felt a strange unease tightening beneath my ribs. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. A text buzzed through. Brian again. Then another one followed, a gif of 2 beer bottles clinking. My thumb hovered above the screen. I didn't reply. After 40 years of hard work, this is what I get? My daughter's name borrowed to sell me trust I didn't owe. I looked at Emily's photo on the wall. I'm not being paranoid, I told her softly. Just careful. Still, when I slipped the flash drive into the locked drawer, the click of the latch sounded louder than usual, like a premonition. The thing about promises is, they're loud when they crack. Saturday arrived with a sky too perfect for what was coming. The kind of morning that makes you think nothing bad can happen under that much blue. Marion had baked lemon bars, just in case, she said. I told her not to fuss. It's only a few friends. Still, she wiped down the counters twice and folded napkins into triangles. That's the thing about hope, it makes you complicit. By noon, a car door slammed. Then another. Then another. When I stepped outside, it looked less like a visit and more like a photo shoot had erupted on my driveway. 8 of them, maybe more. Designer, sunglasses, branded athleisure, ring lights already standing like metallic weeds. A cooler dripped condensation onto my brick, puddling at my shoes. Jessica waved her phone before I could even say hello. We'll be super quick, Dad. Oh my God, this light is perfect. Her tone was all honey and helium, but her eyes didn't meet mine. She was too busy checking angles. Brian appeared behind her, grinning like a man who'd already been forgiven. Dad, relax, everyone's helping. Jess brought her team, they'll make the deck look amazing for your listing. What listing? I asked. He didn't answer. Just opened the cooler and cracked a beer. 2 hours, right? Inside, my kitchen was already a crime scene. My crystal glasses gifts from the retirement ceremony had been quietly swapped for plastic cups. The smell of sunscreen and IPA mingled with lemon oil. A girl I didn't know leaned into the fridge, pulling out sparkling water. Jessica's voice floated over my shoulder. We'll replace anything. That's not the point, I said, keeping my tone level. Oh, Dad, she chirped. You sound like a commercial. She laughed and walked off toward the living room before I could reply. The family room thumped with some surfy playlist, bass rattling the framed commendations on the wall. Someone kicked off Sandy's shoes, leaving a trail across the rug Marion vacuumed that morning. Shoes, please, I said, steady, not loud. This isn't the beach. Brian grinned at the group. Dad's old school respect. Laughter followed, casual and cutting. I forced a smile. 2 hours, I repeated. That's it. The words didn't land. They never do when the room's already chosen its tempo. Jessica drifted toward the upright piano, her camera still rolling. Emily's photo sat above it, her hands mid-laughter from some long ago Christmas. Jessica adjusted a ring light to get better balance and leaned closer to the frame. Not there, I said. She blinked, confused. What? The light, move it. She hesitated, then smiled as if humoring a child. Sure, whatever makes you comfortable. I lifted the ring light myself and set it aside. Her crew pretended not to notice. Brian raised his beer. See, he's chill. Totally chill. I turned and walked into the kitchen before the calm cracked. My hand trembled when I reached for a towel, so I busied it with wiping a countertop that was already clean. Marion caught my eye from the hallway, that half-apologetic look mothers wear when they want peace more than pride. I didn't blame her. Peace had always been our default setting. I took a breath, counted to 10 like I used to at fire scenes. Stay methodical. The house is still standing. The guests will leave. That's all that matters. Then, near the hallway to our bedroom, I saw it. A muddy heel print on the polished marble. Small, careless, undeniable. A stain on the surface I'd polished for decades. I crouched down, tracing it with a finger. Damp, fresh. The kind of mark that says, we were here and we didn't care. For the first time that day, I felt something shift. Not anger exactly, something quieter, heavier. Why is my kindness always a runway for someone else's takeoff? I straightened slowly, eyes on the print. Marble remembers everything. So do I. By mid-afternoon, the house no longer sounded like mine. It pulsed, bass, thumping, laughter echoing off the marble. The scent of lemon oil that I'd worked into the floors that morning was now buried under something else. Cheap beer, sunscreen, and the damp musk of too many shoes that didn't belong. I closed the sliding glass door to keep the humidity out. 5 minutes later, it was open again, curtains breathing in and out like the house itself was sighing. The damp air carried the smell of wet grass and spilled drinks. I could hear Brian outside, his voice above the music, telling someone how open and welcoming the place was. I stepped into the kitchen to find the fridge door hanging wide. Relax, Dad, it's family, Brian said, popping the cap off another beer and letting it clatter into the sink. He didn't even look at me when he said it. Family doesn't raid without asking, I replied quietly, taking the cap out of the sink and setting it beside the empty bowl where Marion's lemon bars used to be. He grinned like I'd made a joke. You always take things too seriously, Pops. We're just having fun. Fun. That word again. It's what people say when they want permission without asking for it. In the family room, Jessica and two girls I didn't recognize were posing on the staircase. She adjusted her ring light, the glow bouncing off the framed glass that held Emily's college diploma. Oh, the reflections here are so good, she said. The phone camera panned upward, catching our wedding photo by accident. She laughed. This is like classic vintage. I moved closer, low-voiced. Jessica, the stairs aren't a set. Please keep filming outside. She gave me that smile I've come to dread, the one that looks like compliance but means nothing. Of course, Dad, just one more take. The words, just one more, were always followed by, oops. From the corner window, I saw Mrs. Alvarez from next door peering over the fence, her brow furrowed. She raised a hand in a tentative wave. I stepped onto the patio and gave her a nod, a silent message. I've got it under control. Whether she believed that or not, I didn't know. Back inside, the counters were littered with snack wrappers and half-empty cups. Greasy fingerprints trailed across the stainless steel fridge door. A streak of mustard curved near the handle like a signature. I reached for a cloth and began wiping small, circular motions, quiet, mechanical. It wasn't about cleaning anymore. It was about reclaiming the house inch by inch, proof that I still existed here. In the living room, a half-eaten sandwich balanced on the edge of my coffee table, dripping onto the coasters Emily made in grade school. I lifted it carefully and tossed it away, then dabbed at the stain until it faded. The music swelled again. Someone had connected their phone to the Bluetooth speakers. "Turn that down," I called. My voice was swallowed by laughter. I moved room to room, closing doors that wouldn't stay shut, straightening what was crooked. I kept a running ledger in my mind, not of money, but of lines across each one smaller than the last, yet heavier somehow. Why am I wiping up after adults who call me controlling for having a standard? When I reached the marble hallway, I saw the muddy heel print from earlier had multiplied. Now there were 3, each one darker, more distinct. I could have sworn they were mocking me. Outside, the ocean breeze carried the muffled sound of Brian's voice. I opened the slider just enough to hear him clearly. He was on speakerphone. "Yeah, man," he said, laughing. "Come by tonight. Party's just getting started." The words hit harder than any shout. I stood there a long moment, one hand on the glass door, the other gripping the towel. Lemon oil, beer, and betrayal blended into a single smell I'll never forget. It wasn't the noise that broke me. It was the assumption. By late afternoon, the air inside the house had grown thick heat, chatter, the faint smell of tanning lotion and beer clinging to every surface. The sun had started to tilt west, gold light spilling through the blinds like liquid dust. I thought maybe, finally, the noise was dying down. Then Jessica called out from the living room. "Hey, Dad," she sang, her tone too casual to be innocent. "We'll just use the guest room tonight, okay? Content shoots at dawn are chef's kiss." I turned from the sink, drying my hands on a towel. "No," I said simply. "No overnight." Her lips parted in mock surprise, like she couldn't believe someone would deny such a reasonable request. "But it's just us. The light in the morning. Oh my God, it's unreal here. We'll clean up everything. Promise." Before I could reply, Brian appeared behind her, grinning like a diplomat caught between 2 nations. "Come on, Pops. It's just one night. You love having people around, right? Mom's cool with it." Marion looked up from her crossword, startled, caught in the middle. Well, if it's just one night." "It's not," I said quietly, sharper than I intended. "You leave by 7. "Oh." Jessica blinked, her smile freezing into something thinner. "Okay," she said too brightly. "Totally fine. I just thought, it might be nice to spend more time as a family. Emily loved mornings here, right?" And there it was, Emily again. The name, the key that always fit any lock. I didn't answer. I just turned back to the counter and focused on wiping down the same square of granite until the cloth came away spotless. As I scrubbed, a memory rose uninvited, as clear as if it had happened yesterday. 3 winters ago, Chase Bank. I was standing at the teller window, signing a cashier's check for $12,400 Brian's credit card debt. He'd come over the night before, frantic, promising it was the last time. His hand shook when he took the envelope. "You saved me, Pops," he said, eyes wet, voice cracking. "You have no idea what this means." He hugged me tight, and I felt the tremor in his shoulders. Tears, I thought. Proof of sincerity. I learned later they weren't tears. They were sweat from panic. He'd maxed the card again within 6 months. Back in the present, I walked into the living room and saw Jessica lounging on the couch, her phone angled toward the sea-facing windows. I glanced at her screen. She was editing an Instagram story, her reflection glowing in the frame. The caption half-typed, "Sunset at our beach house." My throat tightened. "Delete that," I said, calm but firm. She startled. "What?" "That post. My address isn't for social media." Jessica laughed lightly, waving me off. "It's fine, Dad. Nobody cares about numbers on a mailbox. I care." Brian exhaled dramatically. like I just lectured them about recycling. You're overreacting, Pops. It's just a tag. No, I said again, slower this time. No overnights, no posts, leave by 7. He turned to the group and shrugged, smirking. Boomer rules. Laughter rippled through the room like static. I didn't respond. I just picked up the empty cups and carried them to the sink, the sound of plastic against metal drowning the noise for a moment. As the sun slipped lower, the laughter faded into murmurs and low music. For a brief minute, I thought maybe they'd listen, maybe they'd leave on time. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. Instagram. Jessica tagged you in a post. I opened it. There it was, my home's exact address. Brighton Public. Pinned under a caption about family memories by the coast. My jaw clenched. Once your address is content, your safety is a pole. Through the open window, I heard Brian's voice drift in, half whispered, half cocky. Yeah, bring the guys. It's fine. Dad's chill. The cloth slipped from my hand. They were testing limits. I just hadn't realized the test was about ownership. By 6 o'clock, the day had already overstayed its welcome. I stood at the kitchen counter, towel in hand, watching the sun dip over the horizon like it, too, was ready to leave. But Brian wasn't. He sat on the patio rail, phone in hand, scrolling, laughing, confident. The kind of confidence that comes from never thinking about consequences. Come by around 8, he said into the phone, voice breezy. Yeah, we're at the beach house. Dad's cool with it. Beach house. That word again like a knife disguised as a compliment. I didn't correct him. Not because I agreed, but because I'd learned something over the years. Shouting doesn't make smoke leave a room. You have to control the airflow. I wiped my hands, walked into the living room, and found Jessica kneeling by the stairs, adjusting her ring light. She didn't even flinch when I entered. The light in here is insane, she murmured, angling her phone upward. I turned away and looked at the piano. Emily's photo caught a streak of glare from that same light, her smile fractured by reflection. I lifted the frame carefully and carried it into the bedroom. On instinct, I turned it around so the glass faced the wall. The gesture caved my chest. I couldn't stand the thought of her face glowing in their videos, surrounded by noise and strangers. Marion peeked through the doorway, her voice small. You're handling this well. Handling, I said. That's one word for it. 5. Back in the kitchen, I picked up my phone and scrolled to Avery Cho's number, our lawyer. I typed, might need advice on property boundaries. Her reply came 2 minutes later. Document everything. So I did. I started with the cooler sweating onto the marble, then the beer bottles lined along the piano bench, the ring light's reflection in the diploma frame, the trail of sandy shoes on the stairs. I didn't take them out of spite. I took them because I could feel something shifting. And once you fought real fires, by the smell, by the silence when something's about to ignite, Brian brushed past me with 2 more beers. Relax, Dad, it's community vibes. Emily would love it. My throat tightened. He said it so casually, so confidently, like he was quoting scripture. My daughter reduced again to permission slips for bad behavior. I didn't respond. I just clicked another photo, the bottle cap he tossed into the sink, the one that landed beside Marion's measuring spoon. In the hallway, Jessica was filming a behind-the-scenes clip, narrating into her phone. You can feel the love here, she said, smiling. Like real family energy. Behind her, my jaw tightened so hard it clicked. I went to the keypad by the front door and switched the alarm to chime. Every door that opened now gave a soft mechanical ding. It sang all evening front door, backslider, even the side patio. A soundtrack of boundaries being crossed. I told myself I was calm, that this was all still manageable. But calm isn't always peace. Sometimes it's compression, the last stable state before something bursts. At 7:45, I poured myself a glass of water and leaned against the counter. My phone buzzed. Unknown number? Text. On our way, heard it's a beach house party. I stared at it, thumb hovering. My reflection shimmered faintly in the black screen, the same way it used to in my fire helmet's visor before stepping into smoke. The house hummed with music, chatter, laughter sounds that once meant family, now foreign, invasive. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. Just clarity. When a man stops pleading and starts logging, the fire has changed color. Through the window, headlights swept across the driveway. Then another set. Then another. Doors slammed. And the house inhaled strangers. By 8:30, The door chime had gone from an occasional warning to a steady pulse. Each ding announced another set of strangers. More perfume, more noise. The hallway filled with laughter that didn't belong here, too loud, too casual, too confident. I stood by the entryway, jaw set, counting the footsteps. 15, maybe more. They flowed through the house like water through cracks, finding every unguarded space. The smell hit first. Cheap beer and coconut sunscreen rolling over the faint lemon oil I'd rubbed into the floor that morning. It wasn't just a clash of scents, it was a declaration. The house no longer smelled like home, it smelled like other people's weekend. Someone I didn't know dropped a cooler on the marble, ice skittering across the tiles. Another stranger leaned back in my leather chair, wet swim trunks dripping onto the cushion. Vibes, he said, grinning. Grandpa, aesthetic. My mouth opened, then shut. Words felt useless against that kind of entitlement. Jessica clapped her hands to gather attention. Okay, everyone, tour time, she chirped, her ring light bouncing off the glass frames lining the hallway. So classy, cozy, rich, she said to her camera, her voice syrupy for the live stream she'd already begun. Marion had retreated to the kitchen, clutching a dish towel like a lifeline. I caught her eye, gave a small nod. Stay calm. I walked the perimeter of the living room, like I used to circle a burning structure, checking exits, estimating risk. My rules were simple. No upstairs, no bedrooms, no closed doors. Rules I'd learned mean nothing to people who think they're guests in a museum. A guy planted a ring light at the base of the staircase, the glare turning the polished banister into chrome. Hey, I said evenly, not near the bedrooms. He looked me over, a smirk already forming. It's fine, man, we're not touching anything. I lifted the stand myself and set it aside. His eyes rolled as if I were the child in the room. Behind me, someone popped a can. Psh! The sound tore through the air like a matchstick flare. The marble was slick now, damp with condensation from spilled drinks. A half-eaten lime rested in my crystal bowl, the one Emily used to fill with Christmas ornaments. I picked it up with 2 fingers, set it in the trash, and rinsed the bowl in the sink. The water ran red where the lime's acid had burned through the silver polish. In the reflection of the kitchen window, I saw Jessica filming again, this time capturing the ceiling molding. Look at this craftsmanship, she said, laughing. They don't make them like this anymore. I wanted to tell her I built that crown molding myself, every joint sanded by hand on weekends while Emily played piano in the corner. But I didn't. Explaining dignity to an audience chasing likes was like explaining oxygen to someone who never ran out of air. I stood at the base of the stairs, arms folded, the last barrier between them and the life I'd built. My voice, when I finally used it, was calm, command calm, fire scene calm. Upstairs is off limits. Of course, Jessica said sweetly. We'd never. The next minute, I heard the creak of a step, then another. Laughter followed, light and sharp, like broken glass. Door sensor, ding. The upstairs hallway. My heartbeat matched the sound, steady but hard. I started toward the stairs, my hand brushing the banister. My voice was low even, but it carried. Everyone stays downstairs. Now. The music dipped for a second, confusion rippling through the group. Then the volume rose again, drowning me out. Then came the sound I'll never forget, soft but unmistakable. Click. My master bedroom door, followed by laughter. I stopped halfway up the stairs. The kind of stillness that used to come right before a roof collapse filled my body. I wasn't angry yet, anger was too hot. What I felt was colder, sharper. This is how you lose a house, I thought. One exception at a time, until even you forget the original rule. Some rooms you don't enter without being invited. Some names you don't speak without washing your mouth. It started with laughter high, echoing, the kind that doesn't belong in a bedroom. I climbed the stairs slowly, one hand grazing the banister. My knees creaked, but the sound that really hurt came from behind the cracked door. Jessica's voice, bright and breathless. Guys, story time in the sanctuary, she giggled, manifesting this level of generational comfort. The word sanctuary froze me in place. That was what Marion and I had called the bedroom after Emily's funeral. It wasn't just a room, it was the one space where grief could breathe without an audience. I pushed the door open. The ring light hit first, a blinding circle of artificial daylight slicing through the calm. Jessica stood at the foot of the bed, phone raised, follower scrolling live across her screen. My bedspread was rumpled, my wife's old book displaced on the nightstand, and in her hand, my daughter's shawl. It was soft cream wool, folded there since the day we lost her. Jessica ran her fingers over it like it was a texture sample. Rich uncle energy, one of the commenters wrote. Hearts and laughing emojis bubbled upward. My palm found the door frame. I could feel the pulse in my thumb, every heartbeat a warning. Emily's shawl caught the ring light and shimmered like frost. Out, I said. Just one word. Even, low, final. Jessica turned, startled for a second, then smiled into the camera. Oh, Dad, it's just for a sec. My followers love wholesome family moments. Oh? The phone turned, slow and deliberate, panning across the bed, the nightstand, the framed photo of Marion and me on our wedding day. See, she said, her voice sugary. This is what we're manifesting: stability, legacy. Something inside me went perfectly still. I walked forward, took the shawl from her hands without a word, folded it carefully, and placed it back in the drawer. The air between us changed. She blinked but didn't move, her camera still rolling. You need to leave, I said. Oh, come on, she groaned, lowering the phone but not stopping the stream. You're overreacting. We're just making memories. I stepped closer. You're making content. There's a difference. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw the quick flicker of defiance behind her polished smile. The same look Brian used to give me before lying straight to my face. I turned and walked out, leaving her words chasing behind me. Down the hallway, the noise resumed: laughter, music, doors opening and closing. In the study, I closed the door and turned the lock. My reflection in the window looked unfamiliar, shoulders squared, mouth drawn tight, the kind of calm you only find at the edge of rage. Rage boiled in my chest, but I forced a breath, slow and deliberate, like I was masking up before smoke. I couldn't afford an explosion. If I erupted now, they'd make me the headline. Angry old man loses it. If I stayed calm, the law would hear me. I unlocked my phone, scrolled to the recording app, verified the files from the week. Then I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My voice didn't shake. This is Richard Hale. I have trespassers refusing to leave my property. I have recordings of the invitation's limits. I'd like officers dispatched. The dispatcher's voice was steady. Units on the way, sir. Please remain secure. Outside, a burst of laughter climbed the stairs again. I heard a door close, then the rattle of my study handle. Someone testing it. I stared at the knob, unmoving. If they wanted a show, they were about to learn the difference between a camera and a case number. The red and blue lights washed through the front windows, scattering across the marble like spilled paint. It should have looked like safety. Instead, it looked like guilt, thin, flickering, restless. 2 officers stepped through the door, their boots squeaking slightly on the damp floor. Behind them, the house had gone quiet in the way only guilt can hush a crowd. The music stopped. The laughter evaporated. Jessica lowered her phone, screen still glowing. Brian was first to speak. He walked forward, smile already rehearsed. Officers, he said, voice smooth as syrup, I'm really sorry to drag you into this. My dad's been a little confused lately. He gestured toward me with an open palm like I was a wounded animal. We were just helping him with some paperwork. He gets anxious when we mention finances. Officer Lewis, a tall man with kind eyes that didn't miss much, looked from him to me. Sir, do you live here? I nodded. 40 years. And these people? They were invited for a short visit, I said, tone steady. 2 hours. No filming, no overnight stays. I opened the drawer of my oak filing cabinet, the one with the label deeds and title. My hand didn't shake. All legal documents are here. Deed, trust, insurance, untouched. Jessica stepped forward, clutching Brian's arm, voice wavering with practiced tremble. He records people, officer, without permission. That's not normal, right? Her mascara shimmered in the flashing lights. I met the officer's gaze. One-party consent, perfectly legal in this state. I slid a flash drive from my pocket, labeled in my handwriting, June visit. This has a call recording authorizing a short visit made by Mr. and Mrs. Hale Jr. Orl. Brian's mouth twitched. Just once. Then he smiled wider. Dad, come on, this is embarrassing. You've been through a lot since Mom passed. We were just trying to help. He gets fixated sometimes, keeps everything locked away. He gestured toward the filing cabinet as though it were a symptom. I'd seen this tactic before, decades of it, in different forms. Fire scenes where arsonists pretended to help, their faces lit with concern while their shoes still smelled of accelerant. I could smell deceit faster than gasoline. Officer Lewis motioned to his partner, who began noting down statements. Then he turned back to me. Sir, can you unlock the cabinet? I handed him the small brass key. Everything's organized, top drawer for property, nothing hidden, nothing touched. He examined the papers quickly, saw the order, the labeled folders, the recent notarizations. No chaos there. Then he looked at Brian. You said you were helping him with paperwork? Brian nodded, eager. Yes, sir. Just sorting a few things before it becomes complicated. He worries about wills and stuff. Officer Lewis's brow furrowed. And you needed 15 people for that? Brian chuckled too lightly. We might have gotten carried away. Family reunion vibes. I didn't move. I let silence do the work. It's the oldest trick in firefighting. When smoke fills a room, don't shout. Let it drift until the pattern reveals the source. Jessica squeezed Brian's arm. This is so humiliating, she whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Officer Lewis looked back at me. Sir, he said quietly, do you have access to that call recording now? I nodded once, slid my phone across the counter, and tapped play. The room filled with Brian's own voice. Dad, Emily would want us all together this weekend. Just a few friends, 2 hours, promise. A line of static. My own voice replying calm. 2 hours, no drinking, no cameras. The recording ended. The silence afterward was a living thing. Officer Lewis met my eyes. We'll need to hear that again. Truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be documented. The air in the house had changed again. Gone was the noise of strangers. In its place was something heavier: accountability. The officers stood in a quiet semicircle near the kitchen, the red-blue pulse from the cruiser lights painting their uniforms like shifting loyalties. Brian broke the silence first. Look, he began, tone bright and falsely patient. We were just trying to help him. Dad's been off lately. We were helping him sign over guardianship. He can't manage this place anymore. The word guardianship landed like ash in my mouth. Officer Lewis leaned his weight on one leg. Sign over guardianship? You have legal authority to do that? Brian's smile flickered, then steadied. We were working on it. Just paperwork, you know? He gets confused. Mom used to handle most of the finances. Jessica nodded quickly beside him, eyes darting to her phone as if a screen could rewrite reality. We were trying to make sure he's safe, she added softly, that this house doesn't overwhelm him. I didn't interrupt. I learned long ago that in the presence of smoke, the truth needs oxygen, not shouting. Officer Lewis pressed the play icon on my phone again. Brian's own voice filled the room. Emily would want us all together this weekend. Just a few friends, 2 hours, promise. Then my reply, 2 hours. No drinking, no cameras. Silence. Jessica fidgeted, shifting her weight, the phone in her hand trembling just enough for the officer to notice. Lewis looked at me. Sir, do you have anyone who can verify your mental competency and property ownership? I nodded and tapped my phone. Avery Cho, my attorney. She picked up on the second ring, her voice crisp even through the speaker. Richard, are you safe? Yes, I said. Officers are here. Brian claims I'm unfit. Her tone sharpened instantly. Officer Lewis, this is attorney Avery Cho, California Bar number 2, 99457. My client has no cognitive impairment. His last mental evaluation and estate review were completed in April. You're hearing proof of manipulation and coercion. Brian tried to laugh too loudly. She's not even here, man. She doesn't know what's going on. Avery didn't miss a beat. Actually, Mr. Hale, I reviewed every document in that cabinet you're standing next to, including a notarized deed and trust in Richard's name. Would you like me to read the recording timestamps for your unauthorized visit? Jessica's mouth opened, then shut. Her hand slipped from Brian's arm. The officers exchanged a look. Lewis straightened, voice cool and official now. Ma'am, sir, you're both trespassing. You were given permission for a limited visit. That permission has been exceeded. Brian's composure cracked. You don't understand. We were helping him. He's been... Pack your things, Lewis said flatly. Now, Jessica's fake tremor vanished. This is ridiculous, she hissed, snatching a purse from the counter. Brian turned toward me, jaw tight, eyes blazing with something between fury and fear. "You're making a mistake, Dad. You're going to regret this." I met his gaze evenly. "No," I said quietly. "I've already regretted too much." Officer Lewis guided them toward the door, their voices fading beneath the steady hum of the night. The cool air that rushed in as they left smelled clean again, like lemon oil and the sea. Avery's voice came softly through the phone. "You did the right thing, Richard. I'll file for a restraining order first thing tomorrow." "Thank you," I said. Outside, the squad car doors shut. The lights flickered, then rolled down the street until the glow disappeared entirely. Justice doesn't roar, it signs, forms. But as the last siren faded, I knew the night wasn't finished with me yet. The officers moved with quiet efficiency, the kind I used to admire on a good crew, no panic, no waste. They gave Brian and Jessica 10 minutes to collect their things. 10 minutes to dismantle the illusion they'd built around my life. I stood in the hallway while they stomped up and down the stairs, voices rising and falling like bad weather. Jessica's perfume clung to the air, sharp and synthetic, fighting the scent of lemon oil that still lingered from morning. At the front door, Brian turned, eyes flashing. "You're making a huge mistake, old man," he said. "We were trying to help you." Help. That word again, bent out of shape until it meant control. He shoved a duffel bag against the wall, the zipper snarling. Jessica followed, her phone raised, the tiny red light blinking in the corner. She was live streaming the whole thing, my foyer, the officers, even me. "Guys, look at this," she said breathlessly into the camera. "This is what happens when you try to help family. Number free, Dad." Officer Lewis stepped between us. "Ma'am, that's enough. Turn it off." She smiled at him like she was on a talk show. "It's my right to record." "Not if it's defamatory," he said, voice flat, "and not on private property. I suggest you stop before I start writing reports with your names on them." Her smile faltered. The red light blinked twice, then vanished. They shuffled out, the hallway echoing with the clatter of their shoes. No one spoke. I didn't gloat, didn't look away either. When a fire's out, you don't celebrate, you make sure the embers can't reignite. At the threshold, Brian turned once more. "We'll see who people believe," he said, voice lower now, the sweetness gone. I met his gaze. "I'm counting on it." The door shut behind them. Through the living room window, I watched the police cruiser idle at the curb, then pull away. Their taillights flickered red against the street before disappearing into the dark. For the first time in hours, the house was still. The kind of stillness that should have felt peaceful. But peace doesn't hum, it haunts. I walked through each room like a firefighter after the smoke cleared, checking corners, opening windows, breathing the air for residue. The beer smell lingered, faint but present. A lime wedge dried into the marble. A footprint marked the hallway near Emily's photo. I picked up a rag and wiped it clean. Then I poured a glass of water and sat in my leather chair. The same chair that stranger had called Grandpa Aesthetic. The leather was still damp where his swim trunks had touched. I stared at the faint ring of moisture, the dark patch on the cushion spreading outward like a bruise. The silence was heavy, almost defiant. Then my phone buzzed. Ping. A notification glowed across the screen. Facebook. Jessica Hale. "Dad needs help. We tried. Pray for him." The post had over 200 reactions already. The comments scrolled faster than I could read. Sympathy, confusion, accusation. Words like elder abuse and memory loss dotted the feed like sparks jumping a fire line. I set the phone face down on the table. The blue glow still bled faintly onto the wood. Help never comes wearing arrogance. I knew that now. The hardest part of aging isn't pain, it's realizing your children can weaponize concern. I exhaled slowly. The night pressed close around the windows. A man can win a battle and still lose the story. And this story was only beginning to spread. By morning, the house felt too bright, like it was pretending. The kind of light that exposes every flaw, the streaks on the counter, the dent in the kettle, the fine dust along the window ledge. I made coffee, but it tasted metallic, like something had spoiled in the water. Maybe it wasn't the coffee. Maybe it was the silence. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications piled up like sirens I couldn't silence. "Jessica Hale, please send prayers for my father-in-law. Early dementia's hard on everyone." 200 comments beneath, then 400. Most came from strangers, some from people I'd known for decades. "Poor mom. It's so sad when pride keeps him from accepting help. He's lucky to have such caring kids." The photos they posted were stills from her live stream, the shot of me in the hallway, frowning, locking my study door. The caption read, "He thinks we're stealing. Pray for clarity and healing." My hands shook as I scrolled. They'd taken my calm and turned it into madness. A message pinged from Carol, a friend from church. "We're praying for you, Richard. If you ever need someone to talk to, we're here." I stared at the words, reading what wasn't written. We believe them. The ache spread up my chest like slow fire. I called Avery. She answered on the first ring, voice sharp, awake. "I saw the post," she said. "Don't engage, not yet. We'll gather screenshots. Everything public can become evidence of defamation later." "People think I'm losing my mind," I said quietly. "You're not," she replied. "They just want clicks. Silence will help us later, I promise." But silence didn't feel like protection anymore. It felt like surrender. I set the phone down and walked to the living room. Emily's photo still sat on the shelf, her smile patient, unaware of what time had done to all of us. I couldn't look at her, not with the comment threads echoing in my head. I turned the photo face down. The house hummed softly, the refrigerator motor, the low groan of pipes. Ordinary sounds, but tonight they felt alive, almost mocking. The air had a different weight now, thick with digital judgment seeping through invisible wires. Another message blinked across the screen. From Mark, my old captain. "Saw some stuff online. You okay, Rich?" I typed 3 letters, "Fine." Then deleted them. Then didn't answer. The words in the comments got meaner as they multiplied. "If he's unsafe, the son should take the house." Someone called APS. Classic elder paranoia. They didn't know me. They didn't know the years I spent walking into burning buildings while my son partied through college on my dime. They didn't know the cabinet, the files, the rules that kept this house standing. All they saw was a screenshot of an old man locking the door. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the clock tick. Every second sounded like a gavel. Vindication had lasted an hour. Humiliation, it seemed, had better stamina. I whispered to the empty room. I thought silence was dignity, but I finally understood its ammunition for the loud. Outside, the ocean breeze moved the curtains. The air smelled faintly of salt and something else, something bitter. Truth without witnesses is just another opinion. And right now, mine was losing. The comment count climbed past 1,000. Then the doorbell rang. When I opened it, my neighbor Robert stood there, cap in hand, phone raised. His face was grave. "Richard," he said quietly, "I think I can help." Robert stood on my porch the next morning, cap in hand, eyes heavy with something between concern and quiet triumph. His wife, Nora, lingered behind him, holding a small basket wrapped in foil. "Fresh muffins," she said softly, avoiding eye contact. "We saw some of what's been posted." I stepped aside to let them in. The house still carried the faint sour smell of last night's chaos, a ghost I couldn't air out. Robert cleared his throat. "They said you'd lost it," he murmured, "but my footage shows who really lost control." From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small USB stick, labeled neatly in block letters. "Hale Residence, June 10th, porch cam." "I didn't mean to spy," he said quickly, "but the noise went half the night, and I figured if anything happened, I'd better have something to show the police. Habit, I guess." I raised an eyebrow. "Habit?" "Postal inspector," he said, almost apologetic. "Retired now, but old habits don't die." And we sat in the living room, sunlight cutting through the blinds in careful stripes. Robert plugged the USB into my TV side port, and the screen flickered to life. The footage began just before dusk. The view from his porch framed my driveway perfectly. People streamed in cars, coolers, ring lights. Laughter spilled out onto the lawn. Jessica's voice carried above the noise, sharp and certain. "Okay, guys, follow me inside." Then the timestamp rolled forward. The scene shifted to night, music pounding, porch lights flashing like strobe. Through the front window, we could see shadows moving, shapes lifting glasses, someone jumping on my couch. At the 10-minute mark, the door opened wide enough to catch Jessica's live stream setup, her ring light glowing like a halo over the chaos. She panned across my living room, calling it cozy, rich vibes. The audio picked up my voice from the hallway, low but firm. "Out. Now." Then came the kicker. At 9:13 p.m., just after I'd gone upstairs, Jessica turned to someone off camera and laughed. "Once he signs, we'll flip it. Easy equity." I didn't realize I was gripping the armrest until my knuckles ached. Robert leaned forward. Time stamped, audio intact. Officer badge visible when the cops arrive. That's an unbroken chain of custody. They can't spin this. Nora shifted beside him, hands twisting in her lap. We didn't want to interfere, Richard, but it wasn't right. The things they said online, I swallowed hard. You didn't interfere. You just remember what right looks like. Robert smiled faintly. Well, I'm tired of good men being framed for having standards. My phone buzzed on the table. Avery. I put her on speaker. I've got neighbor footage, I said. Send it, she replied. The sound of her typing filled the room. A few minutes later, she exhaled sharply through the line. Richard, this is gold. The timestamps, the language, the clear evidence of intent, it's everything we need. We can file both defamation and attempted coercion, public and private. The room went quiet again, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Nora reached for her husband's hand. You'll get through this, she said softly. Maybe faith isn't about trusting people, I thought. Maybe it's about trusting that truth leaves fingerprints somewhere, and that sometimes good neighbors notice. I stood, crossing to the window, watching the calm street that had nearly turned into a circus. They wanted content, I said quietly. They gave me proof. Robert nodded. Guess the internet can work both ways. I smiled for the first time in days. Let's make sure it does. For the first time in weeks, the house smelled right again. Coffee, paper, lemon oil, and printer ink. The chaos was gone, replaced by order. My order? On the dining table sat everything that defined a life built by work. The deed, the mortgage release, the trust documents, each tabbed and labeled. Every folder was a brick in a wall I was rebuilding, one fact at a time. Robert's USB drive rested in a small evidence bag, labeled and signed across the seal. I held it up to the light, the handwriting steady. Hale Residence, June 10th. It looked fragile, but it held truth more solid than concrete. Avery's voice came through the speakerphone, calm but charged. Okay, Richard, let's go through it again. Trespass, defamation, and attempted fraud. You understand these are civil actions, not criminal yet. Understood, I said, flipping through the pages. Civil's enough. Civil built this country. She paused. You're seriously suing your own son? I didn't look at the phone when I answered. No, I'm suing the man who used to be him. The line went quiet. Then Avery said softly, all right, then we do it right. Her keyboard clicked, the sound like a typewriter carving resolve into paper. The complaint was drafted, notarized, and filed with the county clerk before noon. By 3 o'clock, the case number was assigned. The system that had once seemed so slow now moved with purpose, like an engine finally engaged. I spent the rest of the afternoon preparing my side. I printed screenshots of Jessica's posts, each one dated and time-stamped. I matched them with excerpts from Robert's footage frames of her laughing under my roof, the officer's badge catching the light, and the line that sealed their intent. Once he signs, we'll flip it. Easy equity. I opened a new manila folder and wrote on the tab in clean block letters, Exhibit A online activity. Avery called again. You'll need to make a public statement, she said. Short, factual, no emotion. Let the evidence speak. So I did. That evening, I sat at my desk, opened Facebook, and created a new page for the Truth Our Family story. I uploaded stills from the live stream, nothing invasive, just what was already public. Then I wrote a single paragraph. All events were recorded. Legal proceedings are underway. I trust the law to sort truth from noise. No anger, no names, just calm documentation. Within an hour, the post began circulating. A few comments trickled in, skeptical at first, then curious. Someone shared a screenshot of Jessica's deleted video. Someone else asked if the police had confirmed the trespass report. By midnight, the tone had changed. Wait, this lines up with the neighbor's footage. I was at that party. He told us it was his house. I'm sorry, sir. I pinned that last one to the top of the page. The feed quieted after that. For once, silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I leaned back in my leather chair, the same one that stranger had soaked with salt water weeks earlier. The cushion was dry now, but the mark remained faint. A scar, not a stain. I wasn't angry anymore, just focused. I built this house with callous hands and union paychecks. Now I defend it with evidence and signature ink. Justice moves slowly until it has paperwork. And tonight, it finally did. The courthouse smelled of paper and old wood polish. the kind of scent that clings to truth after it's been handled too long. Rows of benches were packed neighbors, retired colleagues, even a few who'd once whispered that I'd lost my mind. Now they came to watch the ending. Brian walked in wearing a navy suit and an easy grin, his arm around Jessica. They looked rehearsed. He still thought charm could rewrite facts. Avery began calmly, every word deliberate. Your Honor, this case isn't about family conflict. It's about manipulation and defamation. The evidence will speak for itself. The courtroom lights dimmed as Robert's porch footage filled the screen. Jessica's voice floated through the speakers, bright and careless, manifesting this level of generational comfort. Then her off-camera line sharp, damning, once he signs, we'll flip it, easy equity. The room froze. Jessica's eyes went wide. Brian's smile cracked. Their lawyer tried to object, but the judge waved it off. Avery advanced to the next exhibit. My bank records, clean and dated. Transfers totaling over $12,000 to pay off Brian's debts. Handwritten notes in my neat block letters. For your restart. Make good choices. Avery looked at the judge. This is not confusion. It's generosity turned into ammunition. Robert took the stand next, his voice steady. I filmed what I saw, time-stamped and unedited. The homeowner was calm. The guests weren't. Brian shifted in his chair, his confidence gone. Jessica gripped her phone like a talisman she couldn't use anymore. When Avery finished, the judge leaned back, rubbed his forehead, and read the ruling slowly. The court finds in favor of Mr. Hale. The defendants are liable for trespass, defamation, and damages in the amount of $48,000. A public retraction must be issued on all social media accounts involved. The gavel came down like a closing door. Brian's face collapsed, all polish stripped away. Jessica whispered something, maybe sorry, maybe not, and they walked out under the quiet gaze of every person they tried to fool. Outside, Robert waited by the steps. You did good, Richard, he said. Took your punches. Stayed standing. I nodded. You ever notice justice sounds like a door latch when it works? He smiled. Yeah, clicks just once. That night, my phone buzzed. Jessica Hale, public post. We were wrong. Mr. Hale did not suffer dementia. We apologize for the damage caused. No excuses, no filters, just surrender in plain text. The comments rolled in neighbors, strangers, quiet words of respect. I sat there, the light from the screen washing over my hands, feeling not triumphant but finally still. For months I'd lived as a rumor. Now, the truth had a voice again. Forgiveness doesn't erase wrongdoing, it just puts it in order, properly labeled, in a drawer that can finally close. The house wakes with the light. Morning slides gently through the glass, spilling over the marble floor where chaos once lived. The air smells like coffee and clean salt from the sea, simple, honest, unbothered. I move slowly these days, not from age but from choice. The filing cabinet sits exactly where it should, by the window, polished, smooth. The key rests on top, no longer a weapon against fear but a reminder of order. I open the top drawer once more. Inside, the documents lie neatly. Deed and title, case records, Robert's footage, Avery's letter on top. Her words are short and steady. Case closed, funds transferred, judgment satisfied. I close the drawer gently. That soft click carries more peace than any apology ever could. Emily's photo stands beside it again. I'd turned it face down after everything fell apart, unable to meet her eyes. Now, I wipe the glass clean, trace her smile with my thumb, and set her upright. We're okay now, I whisper. Outside, the roses Marion planted are full again, petals heavy with dew. I grab her old pruning shears and step into the sunlight. The air hums faintly distant gulls, a neighbor's mower, the soft world I almost lost. Robert waves from across the fence. His wife calls out something about muffins. I raise my hand in quiet thanks. Some friendships don't need words, they just keep showing up. I kneel among the roses and trim the dry stems. Marion used to tell me, you can't make them bloom if you're afraid to cut. She was right. Renewal always comes with pruning. Inside, the house hums differently now, steady, human, alive. The refrigerator clicks, the clock ticks, the rhythm of life returning to its natural order. For the first time in years, I don't brace for noise. I don't check the locks twice. The quiet feels earned. I pour 2 cups of coffee, out of habit. One for me, one for the space where Marion used to sit. The steam curls upward, disappearing into sunlight. For a long time, I mistook kindness for open doors. I thought forgiveness meant letting people stay no matter how much they took, but kindness without boundaries is surrender dressed up as virtue. Now I know better. Family, I've learned, isn't defined by blood or last name. It's defined by respect for what's closed doors, hearts, memories. As the day warms, I set the shears down and rest my hands on the edge of the garden box. Every petal, every scar on my palms feels like a story that finally found its ending. Some lessons you learn too late to teach, but just in time to live. I glance back at the house, the clean windows, the photo by the cabinet, the quiet breathing of peace returning home. I built this sanctuary with my hands, now I protect it with my mind, and it is, finally, enough.